Hey guys, it's time for a studio update, so let's go ahead and take a look at what I've been working on tonight. So first up on this update is the Space Hulk board that I'm working on. It's coming close to being done with the casting. I have learned some things about casting throughout this entire project, and there are some pros and some cons to it that I'll go over in a minute. But first, let's take a look at the actual pieces to kind of give you an idea. These are all the little wall sections. As you can see, that is a lot of them. I think I've got another 10 or 15 casts to do, which I'll be doing tonight and tomorrow, and then I'll be able to start gluing them down to the boards and everything. And this is also something that I have learned. If you are ever going to do this set, because of the fact that it takes so many pieces to do, the best way that I have found out is to actually do enough tiles to create a piece, and then it'll just save you the time, unless you're on a budget, to get some rubber that you would make a mold out of, and then make a mold of said pieces if you want to make them quicker. It's just very time consuming to have to cast all of these individually some 60 times, and it's so ridiculously time consuming. I've also got some other things that I have casting right there as well, some bases. As you can see, a lot of pieces into this set. It's going to be really interesting and cool. I'm actually going to get a hold of some Blood Angels and some Gene Stealers as well, because once this one's done, I'm going to build one for myself, probably using some new methods. I'm not particularly fond of the shake table, so let's go over the pros and the cons of using a plaster shake table for this. Now I will say this, that H4H molds are designed to be done with plaster, but I have learned that I dislike the plaster method. I've been looking into casting a lot lately, and the one thing I really want to get into is pressure pots and resin casting, and that's something I'm going to be looking into over the next 6 to 9 months, because it's going to take a while to be able to afford the stuff. I've been looking into Smooth On's website a lot for good stuff. The one thing I dislike is that this shake table just doesn't really seem to do the job in the long run. I mean, if you look at this original design that I came up with, I really just wasted money painting it and then polyurethaning it, because by the time you scrape off all this, I've gotten to the point where I can't even use the scraper to get this stuff off once it builds up big enough. I have to use a chisel to be able to actually get this stuff off. And it's just let me give you an example here. See? It took a little bit just to get that off. These are mostly cured, and I'm going to pop them here in a few to get them out. But what I would like to try and do is to figure out a way to pressure cast these. Now, I'm not 100% certain if that's even possible with H4H molds. I need to find out if they were made that way, because if I can pressure cast them and just drop the mold into a 5-gallon pressure pot with a compressor, then that would take all the bubbles out, because that to me is the biggest problem with the shake table. Either you pound on it really hard on a regular table, or you try and get enough shaking going on. But I found also that the pour, as it pours in, it's very much a learning curve to get this going. Sometimes I'll have really good pours, and then sometimes I won't have really good pours. And let me show you some examples of what I'm talking about here that has frustrated me. If we look really close, all right, so you can see there is a lot of pitting in this. Now this is all going to get a layer of latex paint on top of it as well. But as you can see, just going over these, you can see quite a few miscasts, right there. See those two little nubs on top of that? Those did not cast well. I also think it's just this particular mold is extremely difficult. The ones I haven't had any real problems with the flat piece molds If we go over here, yes, I've had some bad casts. They're going to happen. But if you look here, see, like, there's some bad casts right there. Especially like these. These are really easy. I don't think I've seen a single really bad cast come out of these grate pieces. So these grate pieces are great. Get it? That, pun intended. But now for these, I have figured out the easiest way to salvage these is they're still usable, because I'm just going to put a little bit of like goo or something. I'm not sure what I'll use. I might use hot glue, I might use something else to make it look like blood. Because, you know, this is going to be for Space Hulk, so it's going to be kind of nasty. The other thing is that if you're not careful with your water to plaster ratio, you're going to get a severe shrinkage, like in that piece. I'm going to be able to balance that out just by putting some putty underneath it, though. So, and then you got the piles over here, stuff. One of these doors actually ended up miscasting as well, though I'm not sure which one it's in. But the good part about that is, you know, since it's for Space Hulk, it's not a huge deal, because I could see gene stealers going through and slashing through doors and everything. Now this particular mold, the reason I've got it over here is I have cast as many of the things I need for them. So these are just waiting at this point for the rest of all this other casts to be finished. This is all for the expansion. Because this is not only a Space Hulk set, but it also includes the Deathwing expansion, I think. I'm not sure. Whatever the expansion is, the original expansion for Space Hulk is, but that's what it includes. On to our second little update for today. I've started work on finishing up the Middenheim terrain that we started almost about 8-9 months ago, something like that. It was in the wintertime that we started it, and then we put it on the back burner for a little bit, and I'm going through and kind of redesigning and rebuilding it a little bit in some new and interesting ways. What you're looking at here is the expanded Bazzar that I have built tonight. The original Bazzar was rather small. It only had 6 little Bazzar pieces, and then it had this little sort of like shanty shack that had like a lamp and some traps and stuff around it. So what I've done here is I've gone in and I've built 6 more little Bazzar pieces. Actually, this is 7. I can't count today, apparently. And then I built this little doohickey. Now this is neat because I'm taking advantage of my new casting table. Which, you know, in retrospect, what I was saying earlier about casting, I think it really is just those sci-fi walls are just a very difficult mold to deal with, because these are Woodland Scenic's rock molds that I have attached to the sides. Not only do they help weigh it down, but they make it look interesting as well. So I really was kind of experimenting with this little building that I built. I kind of decided this is just sort of like a shanty building that might have at one point been a house, and it's just kind of fallen derelict at this point. So you've got a door, and then you've got areas of it that are just kind of falling apart, and you got what used to be a window but is all boarded up back here. And, you know, this just might have been where someone lived. Maybe there was a tiny forge over here. You can kind of see where this area over here, the wall's pretty much destroyed. And there might even be someone, you know, still living in there. And I've gone through and cobblestoned up this little area. So this is all part of the ruined Bazzar part of the Middenheim terrain. I'm going to be building up more of the Middenheim terrain throughout this week. So here's the original buildings. These were supposed to be broken houses for Middenheim. Now, here's the thing about terrain design that I've learned since I started this project a long time ago. Originally, these were going to be sort of like plaster that was like falling off, and you could see the wood underneath and everything. But in retrospect, this was a fairly horrible design on my part. Like this, I don't like how this turned out. It kind of looked off at the time, but I wasn't really sure how to go about fixing it, and now I have figured out how to go about fixing it. So what I'm going to end up doing is like ripping off some of these parts, and then actually using actual plaster to kind of just go over this and fill this in. Now I'm going to make sure, you know, these ones that are already on, I'm going to leave them on there just to have some open surface area to apply to. But also this design is going to be going out the window for the most part with the rest of the houses. These are going to be still included in the set because they still make good impassable and line of sight blocking terrain, but I have already decided to go ahead and place in some more pieces, which I've cut more bases for over here, to replace those. So these were the old bases that I had cut already for that set, just to give you an idea, and the numbers represent how big they are length by width. So those are 7 inchers and those are 6 inchers. Now since those are about 5 inchers, I've gone ahead and I've put together 2 more bigger ones. These are 8x8s, and then this is a large mansion piece that's getting added onto the project. And what I'm going to be doing with this, that's a little different, is since this is designed for Middenheim and for Warhammer Fantasy, I'm going to be making this like a shattered building, not just a broken building, like almost like it's collapsed down on one side. That's what all these tiles are going to be. They're going to be shattered up, and that would be my alarm going off telling me that the cast has cured. It takes about 6 minutes for the first initial curing, and then that's when you take the water off the top and scrape it, and then you pop the molds. They're okay to sit there for a minute while I finish the update, though. So, what's going to happen is you're going to have multiple tiers. They're going to be kind of like Warhammer Fantasy versions of 40k ruins in a way, except that you're going to have a lot more of this this cobblestone effect all over the place. And then you're also going to have like this planking effect, and then the plaster effect that I was talking about. Those 3 things are going to make them different. The other thing that's going to make them different is I picked up a bunch of foam core. I have not used foam core in the past, but I do know it is a staple in the terrain industry and just terrain in general for building custom stuff. And as you can see, I've got a ton of it over here. So I'm going to be using it to help build these buildings up, to make them a little bit more detailed and realistic, because, you know, not all buildings are super thick, and I'm probably going to be starting to use that more in the future with just, you know, building in general. I've been doing a lot more reading about different methods and research on different things. I've been watching a lot of other terrain crafters out there. There's a lot of cool stuff coming out that I've just got to say is impressing the heck out of me and just giving me all sorts of cool ideas. And our last little update is the Help for Heroes charity. So I'm basing him kind of off of the Vanguard veterans, for the Space Marine. As you can see, he's starting to build up quite nicely now. I've gotten his lower body base built up, and I've also given him sort of like the wrap around, like the robe work that you see on the Vanguard veterans right here. This is also the Space Marine Codex that I got for what, like $2 or $3 at the Desert Industries, the thrift shop. Yes, I'm tired. It's like 5:30 in the morning at this point. I really keep late hours when I work in the studio, as you all probably know. But what I'm going to do is I've given him a bolter right here, and I'm going to go through. These are just the rough shapes. I kind of put in the Aquila on his chest there with the etching tool, and then the little jewel right there. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm also going to give him a wrap going up around his shoulder once I get the rest put in. Now, this arm is for the most part intact how it's going to be. I'm going to have to build up his shoulder guards too, and he's going to give him a head and his backpack and all that jazz. For the actual turn counter part, I'm thinking I'm going to go simple at this point, and I'm just going to put like a little magnetized section right here in the front. I debated having him like having a power fist with an orb and then multiple orbs or something, or holding something to represent the turn counter. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rip this little part out, put a plate there with a magnet, and then just have multiple little stone turn counter pieces that you can put there. So that's your studio update for the night. On that note, I am going to go ahead and get some sleep because I'm really, really tired. But I will post another update tomorrow on the finished Ultramarines Help for Heroes charity assembly, and I'll also be getting some more work done on the Middenheim set. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates.